So guys, in this video, I want to look at a question that keeps popping up in my feed. And forgive me, I'm probably going to put some gameplay in the background in the beginning. Later on, we're going to switch to some tweets. As you can see here, I'm switching, you see. Now I'm at the BBC start page and we're looking at tweets. Now we're back at gameplay. It's just so it's not so boring, because otherwise we would just be looking at the BBC starting page all the time. So the question that I want to tackle in this video is, why is Europe, or why is the Western civilization, including America, the US, struggling so much with getting this virus under control while China is kind of already over it? Right? Because if you look at that question from the outside, you could say, well, should be the other way around, because, for example, hygienic standards in China, you don't have soap everywhere like you have in Europe. And normally Europe should be way ahead of this game, if you think about it, with Medicare and all that. But it's the other way around. So why is that? Now, my wife is Chinese, so I do have a permanent first-hand contact to China. I talk to China, and it's true. People over there are relaxing. They're going out more. They're enjoying life again. They're careful. They're wearing masks. They're doing it very cautiously. But things are slowly returning to normal in China. Not so much in Wuhan, but in the big majority, in most big cities of China, things are coming back to normal. Now, because I have such a close relationship with China and, basically have family in China, I have a little bit of an understanding of how Chinese society works and what the differences are between European or Western societies and the Chinese. And I think the core of this problem is buried within those differences. Something that a lot of people here in Europe, at least probably in the US as well, don't know is that China is a collective society. What that means is that people in China are brought up with the idea that you are part of something that's bigger than yourself. You're part of China. You owe a lot to China. Part of that is that, China has seen an incredible economic growth since the 90s. Where they come here, it's basically unprecedented. So a lot of people are very thankful in China. They're like, wow, we owe a lot to China. Not everyone is a fan of the government itself, but people are thankful, and people appreciate that they are allowed to be part of this thing they call China. And it is deeply embedded in their head that they are an individual, but at the same time they are pulling on one string, and they owe a lot to this thing bigger than themselves, which is China. Now, looking at Western societies, whether it's any society within Europe or America, the US, we are a individualistic society. I don't know if those terms are correct, but what that means, what I want to say with that, is that we as individuals put our freedom and our liberty of making our own decisions above everything else. Okay, it is our most important good. We see it as one of our most important goods, that we can decide for ourselves. We have the freedom. And don't get me wrong, I'm 100% on board with this. I'm not here to defend the Chinese government or speak highly about communism or anything. The Chinese government does horrible things, with Uyghurs, and not only that, they're doing so many things. People are just disappearing. The beginning, how they treated this outbreak was horrible. Doctors disappeared that tried to warn others. So no doubt there are all these shadow sides to this government and to this regime. But nonetheless, I'm not really trying to judge here at the moment. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get like an objective view on the differences between those two societies that led to the large gap in results that we can currently see in Europe versus China. Now, like I said, our society is built around the idea that we as individuals, our freedom, our determination of our own decisions stands above everything else. And I'm fully on board with this mindset in 99% of the cases, but this right now is that 1% where we need to look at China and how they manage the crisis, and where we need to learn from them in order to achieve the same things. Let me give you an example. When China introduced the lockdown, even if it would have been voluntary, I'm convinced that people would have followed it. And not because they're scared of the government or what they're going to do. Maybe that plays a part in it as well. But mainly because they sit at home and they're like, if I go out right now, I will harm my country. I will not only potentially harm myself or the people around me, I will harm the economy of this country. I will harm everything that everybody has worked for so hard. And people don't want that. They do understand this concept of collectivism. They understand that everybody pulls on the same string. The people you hate, the people you like, everybody pulls on the same string in order to achieve a goal. And that is a problem in Western societies. People here have a very hard time to grasp that concept and really to internalize it. And if we're looking at some of the tweets, they really reflect that mindset, something that you would rarely to never really see in China. Found this tweet here from a guy called Gary LFC, and Michelle up here is calling for a lockdown, a reasonable call at this point, I think. And his reply is like, yeah, just do some fascism, Boris. That will work. I absolutely despair some. So basically he's saying, if you lock us at home, if you take our freedom away from making our own decision, whether we go out, whether we want to go to the park, that is fascism. You're a fascist if you do that, Boris. And there are more tweets like that. There's quite a lot going on. The problem is, what we're currently doing is we're politely asking people to stay at home, right? Boris is basically saying, just stay at home, and there are lots of hashtags that say, please guys, just please stay at home. Could we just all problem is, people don't care. People have to go to work. People might need to go to Tesco, like all these people here. That was this morning. So you can see all around the internet, people are not following that advice, okay? Again, because they're like, on one hand, well, I need to go to work, or I need to go to the supermarket, I need supplies, whatever it is. But that's not the only thing. A lot of people are tweeting, I just drove past the park, and a lot of people are playing with their children, let their kids play with other kids, and people just ignore it. People are just ignoring the advice, because they're like, I don't care. I know what's best for my family, innit? So you don't need to tell me anything. I don't trust the government anyway. So you have that kind of mindset that is predominantly a thing in Western societies. Everybody here thinks they are smarter than everyone else. They think, I can do what the hell I want. Yeah, you can't tell me anything. That is a mindset you don't really find in China, simply because the society from the ground up is built differently. Over here, we are asked to question authority, right? It's actually encouraged if you're questioning authority and if you're standing up for your rights and you're a righteous citizen that, has opinions and all that. And that is all good and fine. I'm fully in support of that. But in moments like this, those are the people who cause massive problems down the road and who make it basically impossible to have a voluntary lockdown, kind of what's being attempted right now, like restaurants close, but people are just kindly asked to please stay at home. It doesn't work because there will always be a big majority of people in the West that think, I know better. I don't need to listen to the government. The government is actually the last people I will listen to. That kind of mindset, that's how they approach it. And that is why, in my opinion, only a hard police-enforced, very draconian lockdown will have a genuine effect. And keep in mind, if we're locking down tomorrow for 2 weeks, roughly, we know the incubation times of this is between 5 days and 2 weeks, something along those lines. So for 2 weeks, we will basically see no significant change. We will not see the curve flattening. So the curve will just go up like a rocket for 2 more weeks until we see an effect. So what we're doing right now is basically pointless because we're introducing those voluntary lockdown mechanisms. And a lot of people are following it, and I really appreciate that. But it's not enough. It doesn't work, and we will not be flattening the curve with this. It's a big problem that a lot of people who are not following this, they're not in hospitals, right? They don't know the war that's currently going on. You can see it down here. A&E doctor, please stay indoors and isolate. And why do you think these people are saying this? They're saying it because they're already overwhelmed. Okay, hospitals are already full. It's not looking good. They're looking at Italy. Doctors, if you read the reports of Italy, these doctors are describing it as the apocalypse. Okay, it's completely out of control. People are dying. They're being transported off in truckloads of dead bodies. So the only way, in my opinion, and I can mainly only speak for the UK, is we need a rock-solid, hard, police-enforced lockdown that penalizes anyone who breaks it. You go out without a good reason, well, you're going to pay $2,000 or pounds or whatever it is. You're going to be spending a lot of money for your little liberty. And sure, there will be people who are like, this is fascism, you can't. Okay, fine. So go out then and pay the £2,000 for your liberty. That is fine if that's your choice. But I think that is the only way forward that will literally lead to a genuine effect of flattening the curve, of reducing the pressure on the healthcare systems. And the earlier we act, the faster we will see results. So I'm 100% convinced the lockdown will come. I don't know exactly, obviously, how it will look, whether they're only going to lock down London or part of London, or whether they're going to lock down the whole UK, which would be crazy. But I mean, other countries are doing it as well. But it will come, whether it comes next week or the week after. Of course, we don't know that, but I think we're not far off from this now. And it really puzzles me at times, right? Because in a way, China gave us a manual, right? They're like, look, guys, this is how we beat it, or at least this is how we massively pushed it back. Here's a manual. Do the same thing, achieve the same goals. And the UK is like, oh yeah, oh thanks, that's so nice, China, yeah, and just chucks it in the bin and does something completely different. Why is that? And I think it also has to do with the arrogance of the West towards China. It's a false arrogance that we're still having, this perception that, over here in Europe, or whether it's America, we are the top of humanity. We're doing the best products, we are most educated, we've got the best healthcare system. We're basically, we are the best humans in the world, okay? So why would a third world country on the other side of the world tell us what to do? Why would we accept that advice? It's a little bit that mindset that often comes through in the West, whether it's the US, whether it's Europe, especially towards China, right? And right now, this is just destroying us. Because if we would have just followed these instructions, the manual that China gave us, without being arrogant about it from day one, we would probably be through with this by now. Or we would at least have flattened the curve, cases would go down, the healthcare systems would not be completely overwhelmed. But we decide that we know better than China. We don't need this. You can see it in Korea. Korea, it's another Asian country. I think, again, they have more of a collective mindset in that country than we do have over here. So it works over there. They're basically working down the manual and it works. They're seeing positive results. Over here, we don't. So the lockdown is needed. The lockdown will come. But why are these politicians waiting so long, right? That is another question we have to ask. Why are they not locking down right now? Like, why have they not locked down a week ago? And in order to answer that question, we have to ask, what are the consequences of a lockdown like this? First of all, it's an extreme hard cut for any economy. Now, I'm not an economist. I don't know that much about it. But what I know is that any economy is a very fragile system. A lockdown like this will shut down many businesses for good. Many people will lose their jobs simply because businesses can't survive. People will have less money to spend because they're not earning money. More people will be on social welfare. New businesses can't flourish because people don't have money to spend. Less businesses in general also means supply chains can be affected. So there's a whole chain reaction that comes out of a lockdown. It's nice to scream for a lockdown, and I'm in full favor of this. It's the only way forward for any European country at this point, and the US, in my opinion. But it's not that easy. We have to see both sides of the medallion. The chain reaction that a hard lockdown that goes on for too long will have on the economy can, for example, lead to supply shortages after this is over. Like I said, if supply chains are affected, businesses are shutting down, then it might be that we're coming out of this and cases are going down and we can finally try to live a normal life again. But then we're not having enough food. We're not having enough basic supplies that we take for granted. And then we're having a serious problem. Okay, because people are, that's a saying I read somewhere, people are about 3 meals away from going completely mental at all times. And that is true, because if there's not enough food to go around at any given point in time, people start doing weird things. The law falls aside and people are starting to act outside of that law. Now, the UK will have less of a problem with that than America, because in America, everyone, I'm exaggerating, but most people have rifles, have guns, have firearms at home. Once there are no food supplies, people will use those firearms in order to get food for their children, for example, right? Because when parents see their children don't have food, then they really go for draconian measures in order to get food for their children. So it's possible that by locking down too long, we're pushing this economy too far. We are causing too many shortages afterwards, which then leads to nearly like a civil war situation because people are fighting over food. So in a nutshell, a too long and too hard lockdown can lead to significant shortages and can pose a significant risk. So it's not as easy as just saying, government gives everyone 2.5K every month and we're shutting down for 4 months and everything is great. It's not that easy. We have to look at both sides of this medallion. And I'm afraid it is a quite complex puzzle to solve. I am very happy I'm not in the position that I will have to solve it and make those decisions. However, the lockdown is needed. We need to accept the consequences at this time. We can only hope that governments will do a good job in, ensuring that there will not be those shortages afterwards. Look, if there's shortage of tomato sauce for a month because it comes from Italy, I don't know, for example, then fine, no problem. As long as those shortages don't exceed, a certain basic level, you don't need to eat tomato sauce. You can eat something else, right? As long as there's some food available, I'm not concerned this will be a problem. But if it goes too far, if this goes on for too long, there is the risk that we have a worse situation afterwards than we have now. So guys, these are my thoughts for the video today. I had a few more tweets lined up that I wanted to share with you guys, which I didn't really get to. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that important, It's just about people like this guy. He's currently in Morocco. He went 2 weeks ago, and now he's really unhappy that he can't get home sooner, right? Because of, he knew about the threat when he left, but why are things not moving fast enough for me? Comes back to the point that I said in the very beginning of people in the West, like, thinking that the world evolves around them. Okay, everything is about me, about my individual freedom, my freedom to make decisions. Well, it's not. Okay, it's really not about that. It's nice if you have your freedom, and I think we all should appreciate that we live in a society where we have those freedoms. But at the same time, we have to be able to draw a line somewhere and to say, okay, right now we have to give up those freedoms in order to achieve something bigger for everyone else. And I can really see how the West is struggling with that. Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe. I'm not doing too many videos these days, but the subscriber count keeps going up, and I'm really happy to see that some people appreciate the content, like the content, and keep coming back. So that's great. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can stay healthy. I hope you can wait this out and you don't have to risk your health by going out every day, going to work. If you want to share your story, what you're going through at the moment, I'd be very curious to hear it. Leave that down in the comment section below as well. Thanks for your time, guys, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe. Bye.